So Hyperlight Breaker is set to release in a couple of weeks and arguably is my most anticipated game of January. If you're a fan of open world, fast-paced combat, cool loadout customization, or just playing a roguelike with friends, then Hyperlight Breaker might just be the perfect fit for you. Hi, what's up guys, Fervor here, and before you jump into Heart Machine brand new co-op roguelike adventure Hyperlight Breaker, here are 10 awesome details that you need to know. Let's begin. Before we dive into the details that you need to know, very quick disclaimer, Hyperlight Breakers is a early access title, and this means that there's going to be bugs, things that may not make a lot of sense, new additions that come as time goes by, and just overall an incomplete game. While the team at Heart Machines have been actively putting a lot of effort into making the best experience possible, they are releasing the game into early access, so do know what you're getting yourself into while you're jumping into this title. It does look like they're putting a lot of heart and soul into the game, and there will be consistent updates from what I can tell from the team, but again, this is a early access title, so make sure you know that. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about what Hyperlight Breaker is. So Hyperlight Breaker is a 3D action-adventure game developed by Heart Machines and serves as a prequel to Hyperlight Drifter, set in the same universe actually. It takes place in a overgrowth, a procedurally generated open world, offering a fresh take with fully 3D environments while retaining that fast-paced combat and atmospheric storytelling fans love. Players will explore diverse biomes, uncover secrets, and face unique challenges every time they play. The game supports single player and co-op gameplay, which is super big for me, which allow you to team up with friends. It features a mixture of exploration, combat, and progression systems, all wrapped in a vibrant neon-soaked aesthetic Heart Machine is actually pretty famous for. In terms of release schedule, it's scheduled to release into early access on January 14th exclusively for PC via the Steam store, with a pretty fair price of $29.99 during the early access phase. Just keep in mind, during the early access there will be more additional content. For all my console fans, we do not have any official information on if we're going to be getting it on console. If I'm not mistaken, Hyperlight Drifter as well as Solar Ash were actually eventually released on console, so while we won't have it into the early access, I wouldn't be surprised if console eventually get it sometime down the line. So what exactly are you doing in Hyperlight Breakers? Well, first off, you're selecting a breaker and you're navigating through the overgrowth. This is a procedurally generated map, so basically no matter what map you go into, it will never be exactly the same. You'll go around the map hunting down elites, collecting gear, getting loot, and just trying to buff up to prepare to face off against crowns. You will have to take down elites to unlock the ability to face off against these bosses, so that is a very important detail to note. But overall, the open world is going to be the location where you get a ton of extra loot, gear, and just prepare for the ultimate battle. Crowns are essentially the boss enemies of the area, and you're essentially trying to get as strong as possible so you can face off against them. Hyperlight Breakers will release with 2 crowns, and according to what the development team said, that they will be adding more crowns as early access continue to progress, and this actually extends to the breakers themselves. There will be additional breakers as the game continues to develop. In terms of weapons, you have access to a combination of them. First will be your melee weapons. You can have dexterous, very fast attacking weapons, and some of the slower, like great sword style weapons, so a bit of diversity there. You'll also have rail based weapons or projectile based weapons. These are your standard weapons that can be shot at a distance to deal with enemies at a range. And then of course you have your own individual special abilities that can have a variety of effects. Now this is very important because you will have loadouts, and each of the individual loadouts can have a different combination, not only passives and skills, but just weapons that can actually make a style very unique to the character that you choose. When it comes to some more of the passive customization, it's called the Holobyte System, and this system is one of the most interesting. You have 5 slots that have the ability to add unique passives that can give you some type of benefits. Some things can be as impactful as just giving you raw melee damage, or others can give you extra stamina pips. Whatever the case is, they have unique effects that can actually contribute to making your character unique. The negative with these though, and this is kind of create a risk reward like factor kind of situation with them, is if you decide that you don't want to use that Holobyte, you can swap it out and that Holobyte will be deleted. So there is going to be some type of risk and reward. You need to build effective for how you want to play it, but this is going to be an interesting part of the game, and this is the thing that draws me specifically much closer to the game because I really love customizing and making builds. As you're navigating the overgrowth and building your character, Traversal is something really important, and Hyperlight Breaker has a really awesome world overall, but it is pretty large. And how do you move around? Well, there's a combination of ways to move. First, standard running and dashing. This is going to be something pretty much every character have access to. Then there's more intricate systems like the gliding. This is going to give you the ability to kind of Breath of the Wild, glide around and move around the map. And then of course hoverboards, which is going to be a little bit more faster but grounded based traversal. I'm not sure what the team has planned for more traversal systems, but right now we do have quite a few options, so really good. Now let's say that you don't feel that you're strong enough to face off against the boss and you don't want to die. Keep in mind, dying isn't actually the end. This is a roguelike and it's kind of expected for you to die. But let's say you want to go back, and once you're at base, you can actually use the resources that you earn to decode memories. This is going to be something in terms of the story. Upgrade your character and just continue to progress despite not necessarily completing all the content, which is actually a really nice feature to see, because not every run is going to be perfect run, and having the ability to go back to base and actively upgrade yourself is going to be something that's pretty integral to progression. Finally, I did want to end this video off talking about some of the things to come, because again, this is a early access title, and of course we want to know what the future holds for Holobyte Breaker. First off, there will be new weapons, so the team is planning to add more weapon types to give you a variety of playstyles. More crowns, of course. We have 2 at the start, as I said a minute ago. Having the ability to face off against more crowns is obviously going to add to the depths of the game. This also goes to the monster variety as well. The team is planning to roll out more monster variety, so when you're exploring the world, that they will be adding more to, by the way, you'll have more enemies to face off against. Of course, the breakers, there's going to be more breakers being added to the game, so you can have a variety of playstyles. And of course, they're going to be adding to the story, a story that they're actually pretty good at telling. I've never played Holobyte Drifters, but from what I can tell from Holobyte Breakers, the story's going to follow a very similar idea of how they tell it, typically focus in like pictures and animations, not necessarily narrative driven, well, vocally narrative driven, but they're going to be telling a narrative very similar to that of those other games, so really cool. And of course, the team said they're going to be adding way more than that than what I mentioned, but that is kind of the baseline, so it looks like it's going to be a bright future for Holobyte Breakers. I would say though, down in the description I will have a link directly to the Discord. The dev team seems to be very active in there, and they're always leaving updates and stuff about the game. The community is pretty active, so down in the description, go ahead and check it out. And there you have it, guys. That is 10 details you need to know about Holobyte Breakers. This early access title is shaping up to be one of the coolest games to release in 2025, and considering the studio behind it, who seems to have a lot of love and compassion for the game, I am super expecting this game to do extremely well. With that said, keep in mind, here on Forever Gaming, we're going to be covering the game pretty in depth. I'll have multiple tips, tricks, and guides going over everything you need to know, including pretty much all the breakers. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel for that. Also live stream pretty regularly here on the channel as well as on Twitch, so go ahead and drop me a follow if you want to check out how I play live. And just like that, breakers, I'll see you in the next video very soon.